So testing testicles, 1, 2, 3. Hi. Oh, I'm not used to having something phallic in front of my face. I'm Mark with Weekend Guitar Warriors, sponsored by Shiji Guitars UK. And I'm here with my good mate, Mr. Alistair Clinch, otherwise known as
Title.
Aggie. Now, full disclosure on this one, I met Aggie how many years ago?
I think it was 97 or 90, not 97 years ago.
Yeah, it just feels like it. Oops, I've just booted the camera, yeah.
I think it was about 1997, maybe 1998. So
Yeah, because I did my last gig
is...
with that band with that band 2000, Millennium
Yeah.
Year.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we actually met on a boat going over to entertain the troops,
We did,
like
yeah.
Vera Lynn. And I think I went up to the bar because obviously that's where you were.
Yes.
If I thought you stole my bloody drink.
No.
Yeah, cheers. And
Seriously.
you guys all had Hooker T-shirts on from
did we?
memory. Yeah, because his band at the time were very provocatively called Hooker. I don't think would you get away with being called Hooker these days?
And it's not as provocative as it comes across the name actually, but we can go into that in a minute. But yeah, I was going to say when we met we were playing as Hooker rather than playing with hookers, but
Yeah.
I don't remember us having the T-shirts on. But,
I thought you said you don't remember having the hookers, so that was when we met. Going back then, because Aggie's actually no BS. He's one of my favourite guitarists, and I've been to see him live many times. And like all my favourite guitarists, he's incredibly modest. And one of the reason Aggie's is one of my favourite guitars is, number one, he can jump and dance around while he's playing, and it has absolutely zero effect on his playing. Number two, he's really good on the licks, the tasty licks, and he can do just about anything. I've seen him doing Van Halen stuff through to Queen stuff and lots of other stuff. So when did you start playing? What made you play?
I started when I started secondary school, which was 1972. I got into
God, you're
the
old.
glam rock. I know. I got into the glam rock stuff. Really, was probably my earliest influence I can remember. Mark Bolan and Slade were big influence. I wanted it to be like that when I was like 11, 12.
All right. Well, you're halfway there.
Yeah, and I wanted to. We have sort of gone full circle, haven't we? A bit. But then when I started secondary school, I discovered Quo. Discovered the love of Quo. I heard the Pile Driver album.
And one of my memories of you is like being a complete. What's the blonde-haired fella called?
Rick Parfitt.
Rick Parfitt.
God
You were a
rest his
big.
soul.
You were a big Rick Parfitt fan even back then.
Yes, yeah. Well, I have the white Telecaster because of Rick Parfitt now, but I just loved the early Quo. That sort of gelled to me. That all the glam stuff was all sort of bit boogie kind of. But when I heard that early Quo stuff, I was like, "That's it." And at the time when I started
kind of
school,
made me feel down.
Yeah,
to be honest,
I just love it. I just love it. Just the.
You missed that one, Aggie.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't miss it. I ignored it. I just loved just the guitars of the early Quo, just the thrash and the boogie of it. But at the same time, when we were at school, there's a little gang of us all started playing guitar. We used to go to guitar lessons in our lunchtime at school.
Get you.
And we were all Quo fans, and we were all going to be the next Status Quo.
Right.
And I think the fact that there was 4 or 5 of us.
Was Quo like the long-haired guys at that point? Or was
Yes.
the Muppets still?
No, they were long.
You're not
hair.
that old then, yeah.
No, not quite that old, but no, it was a long hair. So that was another attraction. We all wanted to grow our hair long. And
how did that work out for us?
yeah, well, it's all gone now, but I did all right with it. I think I had my long hair till I was about 40.
Yeah, I actually had hair down my back dyed blonde at one point.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that's the 80s to blame for that, isn't
Yeah.
it? I did get involved in all of that.
Yeah.
Had my hair all sorts of colours, and now I've got none. But yeah, mainly through Quo, through all my early.
We'll
teen
get around to
years.
it later, but he does wear wigs and stuff at the weekend.
Yes. So that's how I got into it, and then I became. Our first band, there was just like 4 guitarists, and no drummers.
4 guitarists.
Yeah, and no drummers and no bass players. And then I came to a point where I said, "Well, go on, I'll be the bass player." So I was the bass player for quite a good few years, really.
Really?
Yeah, I was a bass player probably until about.
Was that because the bass players are like the chick magnets and stuff, or?
What? Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought I'd give it a try, and we used to get involved because we were in school, and we were in the music class and doing guitar lessons. The school always, I suppose, all schools did like a musical thing at the end of term show, and I can remember doing Joseph, and they invited us as. You know,
hopefully not biblically.
Yeah, no, they invited us to be in the orchestra for the school musical. So and we didn't really know what we were doing, but it was good buzz. But our guitar teacher, who was the French teacher, he was playing the bass for the musical. But in between rehearsals, when we were all just jamming a bit, I thought, I'll have a go with his bass. Weirdly, he was left-handed, so I had to. Bit sort of a Hendrix thing. To turn his bass guitar upside down, and then learn to play the bass upside down. But you're only doing Quo stuff, so it's easy to go.
It's just
upside down or the right. Yeah. But I quite enjoyed it, so I went on to bass for a long time after that. Probably till about.
Do you remember what the bass was that you had your first bass?
My first bass was a Jedson Telecaster bass in sunburst colour.
From a catalogue, was it? Mine was a satellite from a catalogue, yeah.
My first guitar, my first electric guitar was, I think it was a Woolworths Top 20 or something, like a kind of a Stratty kind of copy.
Yeah.
Which Father Christmas bought me. And then I think Father Christmas bought me my first bass, which was the Jedson Telecaster.
My first guitar actually was for a guy. He gave it me for babysitting for his kids, and he was a Vox. I think it was called a Broadcaster, and it had like a coax lead and stuff.
Oh right, yeah.
And yeah, he gave me that, but there was a big chunk out of the fretboard, so I tried fixing it with a piece of desking woodwork at school, and I did such a bad job. My mum took pity on me and bought me a satellite Stratocaster-ish style thing out of the catalogue for 42 quid.
Right, wow. I don't know how much. I've still got me old Woolworths Top 20 guitar, like so.
Is it a Winfield one by any chance, or? We had a school guitar that was one of them, but that was really great.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the guy I was telling you about from Canada that we interviewed last night, his first guitar was a Woolworths one.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been. I just remember it's got Top 20 on the badge, but yeah, terrible thing, awful thing to play.
Yeah, I'm going to admit to a crime now. I actually acquired that one from school when I left because it was a school. It was a school guitar. Yeah, and I think I sold it to Mamelocks or something years and years later. The fact nobody ever bothered playing with it was in the school. There was only ever me that bothered with it, and my teacher at the time just said, "Yeah, you might as well take it.
Yeah.
You're the only one that bothers." We also had like a Vox AC 30 head and cabinet that somebody had a really bad electric shock off. So no.
So you can have that.
Yeah, well, I wish I had. That'd be worth a lot of money these days. But it was. Yeah, sad times. A criminal, really. So I can blame the teacher now because unfortunately he's dead. He died trying to fix his own TV. He did, Mr. Wilson. God. He's the only guy that's ever given me a guitar lesson.
Yeah.
So you did that, and why did you end up switching to guitar then? Because I'm assuming that.
We
And how old was you by then?
I was probably, when I switched back to guitar, I was probably about 19, 20, something like that.
Yeah.
We also had this other thing that discovered Thin Lizzy as well a little bit later, around 76 and that. And myself and one of the other guitarists who remained good mates, we always thought it'd be nice to get that sort of dual guitar thing going. And
I've just realised we should have done a demo and played it back and seen whether the sound's coming out. Yeah.
Oh well,
Never
live on
mind.
the edge.
Yeah, live on the edge. Yeah, I'll ring you up if we got no sound and we can do it again.
So we got to know a guy in Neston on the Wirral. He had a little record shop. He'd started playing the bass. He wanted to put a band together. So I thought, well, it's an opportunity. We'll go back onto the guitar, because me and the other guitarist used to jam all these Lizzie songs and started writing a few songs and that. So I went back onto guitar. And so that was probably about
I remember you
1981.
seeing you I think it was your birthday party, maybe in your 40th or something, playing "Don't Believe a Word."
Well, the guy who got up playing that was the guitarist. Then when we used to do that, yeah. Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. That was long. That was my 40th, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that I invited you to that. Or did
Well,
just
you didn't.
turn up?
Your ex-wife did.
Oh, did she? Oh, right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got an invite off you. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I went on to guitar, and then that band sort of folded. We were going to be rock stars again, but it fizzled out. We were still stuck in the 70s, I think, really, writing 70s rock stuff, and we should have been new romantics, really, I suppose, in 1981, 82.
Yeah. I mean, you've not really moved on since, have you?
No,
Really?
no, of course not. I'm just waiting for it to come back around again and go past.
Well, I think you're there. We'll come back to it later, but Aggie's actually in probably one of the best glam rock bands now that you've ever seen, and he also does an 80s show as well. And
We do a bit of 80s,
yeah, he always wanted to be a transsexual, so he
Only in public.
only in public, yeah. So he gets to dress up in all this fantastic stuff, and I'll do the plug now for them. If you get a chance to go and see Kookachoo, who've got an album out at the moment on.
We have got it's on all the streaming sites, Spotify and others are available. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Live at Breen. It is
Breen Sands Holiday Camp.
Breen Sands, yeah, and it was from a 70s weekender that we do every November. And the guy, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. The guy recorded it just direct from the desk.
Right.
And we got hold of the tracks recently, and I had to mess about with them and mixed them all and together, and then thought I'd just put
Kenwood?
it out.
Was it Kenwood?
Yeah. Might have been better with the Kenwood.
Yeah. So that was then. I mean, was there a few bands then before you did the hooker thing, or?
Yeah, I've quite done all sorts of bands. Yeah, the band then in the 80s. For some reason, we were called Head Over Heels. We were writing stuff of our own.
Not from the Tears for Fears thing.
No, it was prior to that. The guy who had the record shop, Jed, he come up with the name. He was like the manager of it as well. I don't know.
Bit like a Malcolm McLaren sort of like thing.
Yeah. So we did that, and then that sort of fizzled out a bit. We wrote. Bizarrely, we wrote like a bit of a daft novelty Christmas song for a laugh. Like, we were just drunk one day, and he was like being a bit of the salesman. He went, "This is a great idea." He knew a guy from out your way, really, Warrington way, I'm sure he was. But he was like an A&R guy. His little record shop there in Neston. Quick history from what I can remember. He originally worked for Nems down in London, and when he come up here, he still knew all these A&R guys when that was the big thing, plugging the records to get into the charts. So his little record shop in Neston was on the what's it called, the Gallup poll that compiled the charts.
Yeah.
So these guys still used to come and see him. So he still knew some of the A&R guys. He told this guy about this novelty record we've done. And he said, "Oh, I'm mates with Bob Carrollgees from
Spit the Dog.
Spit the Dog. Yeah, I'll have a word with my mate Bob." He agreed to sing the song that we'd done, and we recorded it with him.
I've got a horrible, and I do mean horrible, feeling. I remember something about that.
Yeah, probably. We recorded it at Newtonley Willows. Do you remember the band Poacher?
I do. The country and western band. They were starting. I think they were an Opportunity in Oxford, weren't they? Originally.
Yeah. Peter Frampton, not Peter Frampton Comes Alive, but the guitarist name was
Peter Frampton from Sarge Frampton from Warrington.
Yes,
is it him? Yeah.
Yes,
he's a bit of a local legend in Warrington.
Yeah, great guitarist. Well, he was the engineer because it was Poacher's studio in Newtonley Willows, so he recorded it, and Bob Carrollgees came along, did the vocals, and we ended up taking it down to London through my mate Jed's, his couple of contacts that he still had. I remember going to EMI in a big plush offices there and playing it, and he thought it was a load of shite. and that was the end of that.
Was it like one of those? It's crap. It'll go straight to number one.
It was more. It's crap. Don't bother us ever again.
Oh dear.
So that was the end of that. That band fizzled out then, but. Yeah, where we're going? Oh, yeah, other bands. Yeah, the drummer in that band, this is kind of linking into the Hooker thing. His name was Chrissy Hooker, drummer. Sadly no longer with us.
Because I remember the infamous Roy when he was the drummer Rockin' Roy when I first met you.
Yeah. Well, Chrissy Hooker was the drummer with us in Head Over Heels, and then me and him put another band, just a pub rock band together, a couple of lads from Ellesmere Port, called The Shade. I used to do all sort of punky stuff, bit of the Alarm, bit of Who stuff, just pub rock stuff of the time. Mid-80s this was. That was on and off for a few times, and then a few other
But you
bands.
decided not to go all Spandau and Pretty Boy stuff now?
No, not at all, no.
Any particular reason for avoiding the Pretty Boy stuff?
Not enough guitar in it for me, really.
Yeah. They were all predicting the death of the guitar in the late sort of 70s, and it ironically sort of punk brought the guitar back. Which was, and then there was a new wave of British heavy metal, wasn't there, that come along with the Saxons.
Yeah, I liked a little bit of that, but yeah, I went a bit more into the punky, post-punky stuff, but also
which really surprises me, because I would say that you're more of a rocky sort of like style guitarist rather than certainly a punky one, because you're a good solos player and stuff.
I like to dabble in that a little bit now and again. I got into a bit of a bluesy rock stuff as well, bit of Rory Gallagher kind of thing, and I love Rory Gallagher. So
I seen Rory Gallagher in A1 Music the night before he died.
Did you?
He did. He was doing it, and nobody recognised him apart from me, which is strange. But the first thing that I thought, who's that small little guy over there, sort of walking around? And I couldn't believe it, because I'd seen him on Rock Goes to College, and he blew me mind away. He was just so talented, so good, and he was there just mooching around A1 Music about 5:30 at night, when the days when Anne and Graham used to own A1 Music before it became Sound Control and stuff, and just a tragic loss. I was quite touched when Fender released that Rory Gallagher tribute, because that's the minimum the guy deserved. He was a great player, and by all accounts a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, it was amazing. I really liked Rory Gallagher. So I dabbled in a little bit of that. Always had a sort of a bit of an on-off sort of thing, where a couple of mates of mine would try and put a band together, and it never quite happens, and one, two, never. And we still do it now with a couple of mates, we put together this band called Bilko's Privates, which was basically a mixture of all that stuff with a bit of just lunacy and comedy nonsense.
Yeah. I think you advertise yourself for your 40th as being Bilko's Privates, actually.
Maybe, yeah. It's been on and off for like since the mid '90s, probably early '90s. So it's always like a bit of Quo and ZZ Top and a bit of Rory Gallagher and a bit of rock and roll-y stuff. And
I've seen
we
you
still do
the
it
odd
now and
thing
again.
where you're advertising it through Facebook and stuff like with that.
Yeah, we gig about once a year in the local pub.
So when did you meet up with Keith? Because Keith's your long-time musical associate for
He is now, yeah.
Keith's a vocalist.
Yeah, in about 1995, was it 96? I'd worked at Manweb for many years.
With my mate Rob.
Yes, Wrecker Riley. Yes,
Riley, the current health and safety executive. Yeah.
Which I find quite ironic, knowing him of old.
Hey Rob.
Yeah.
And Rob's a guitarist as well. He'll listen to this. I'm absolutely sure.
Hello, Rob. Not seen for a long time, but yeah, we had a good fun. It was a good job. Anyway, around that time when they got privatised and Manweb, Scottish Power as it became, offered redundancies to anybody who wanted one, basically.
Yeah.
Myself and a lot of the other lads thought, the grass is greener. Take a little bit of a payout and go and do something else. So in that spell where I was thinking, well, yeah, what else am I going to do? Sitting around doing nothing. Another mate of mine, Tony Ryan, his wife run a little bit of an agency thing, and I was around at Tony's house and we were having a beer and chatting and that. And he said, "What are you up to?" I said, "I'm doing the Bilko's Privates thing, but not doing much really." He said, "Did you know Kenny Hooker, who was Chrissy Hooker's brother?"
Yeah.
They had a band going. Kenny Hooker and Chrissy Hooker had this band going called Hooker because of the name, obviously. Keith was the vocalist. My mate Tony said, I'd known Kenny Hooker through Chrissy Hooker since about 1980. And they said, "Do you know Kenny's leaving the band, looking for another guitarist?" I quite fancy having a go at that. They were kind of like the big noise on the Whittle pub scene at the time. So I went along to a bit of an audition for them, and we hit it off. So we joined them, and we were a good pub rock band. But Keith he was kind of the driving force, I think. I always wanted to do better gigs. We always had this thing that we weren't going to be famous, but we'd like to do it full time, trying to make some decent money out of it.
Well, when I met you guys, you know, I mean, just a bit about that. Well, I remember seeing you lot thinking, well, this lot aren't going to be any bloody good. And we were supposed to be at different places in Germany. And we actually ended up on the same one. on the same one. And we were doing the marquee gig in the marquee. And you were inside entertaining the riffraff. And I remember going in and watching you lot, because we'd become friends by that point. Already after Keith throwing sausages at people at breakfast in the morning after we were all drunk and stuff. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, what a good band. And Keith was like very theatrical. You know, the crucifix stand at the end of the songs. And I thought, my God, these are good. And when we came back, the first thing I did was wanted to go out and see you do a full show. Because unfortunately, we had to go back and do our load of old rubbish in the marquee. And I remember that really well, because it was the first night I had ever played without any effects whatsoever, because me effects processor had broken it down. And all I had was a Marshall JMP1 going into the PA. That was all I had that I could actually use. And funnily enough, I kept thinking, actually, this sounds pretty good. What was I doing with all those wah-wahs and overdrives and stuff? Yeah.
Well, that's I've kind of made guitar career out of that. Like I never used any effects. Like just
So
a Marshall amp and just turn it up was
So-
always my thing.
So I know you're lying because, because I've seen.
Not really.
I've seen. Nah, but you get what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
you were one of the first guys I remember who were using like the Pod HD in a rack and.
Yeah, but
and
that, I
stuff.
got talked into that through convenience, really. Because
Right.
prior to that, I had my full Marshall stack that we used to use.
Yeah.
And I used to love that. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I only ever used one cab, but the look of it was just
Yeah.
great.
It does. I remember having two Marshall 4B12s and then having like a half refrigerator sized rack on the top. I used to have to get on chairs with another guy to put on top, and it didn't sound any better than it did have a combo.
Yeah.
You know.
We had it for the look because we were doing the glam rock thing then, but I had it was just a 50-watt head, the DSL.
The old
2000
dual.
or the-
Oh, right, okay.
the-
Yeah,
the
so I had the
JCM
JCM 800,
Yeah.
which become like really prized
Oh,
after.
yeah. They are
Yeah.
now. No, this was is it the 2000 or something?
Yeah,
It was the DSL
the
50
dual
watt head.
the dual super lead.
Yeah.
The
and then I had-
JCM 800, I had the first one that was only one channel.
Wow.
And so I had, I made that big discovery that by accident that it didn't sound the noise I was going to get of it didn't happen, and I used to have to use a Boss SD1 overdrive to get the sound, and then I forgot me Boss SD1 overdrive one night, and I wanted a bit of reverb, so I had this WEM. I can't remember what it's called. It was a Dominator reverb unit, but I plugged it in, and when I plugged it in, all the gains and everything on it were on full, and it overdrove completely the Marshall JCM 800, which I always had sat on the edge of breakup, and it was like, wow, listen to this, So I completely ruined the gig because I was just playing on like an AC/DC sound all the way through, playing things like, I can't remember what it was at the time, but like I think at the time we was playing April Wine and a couple of AC/DC songs. It was, like youth club gig stuff.
Yeah.
But those Marshall things are great. And even now the little Joyo Bantamps, I use one of those, which is a dual, is a simulation of it, and it's fantastic.
Oh, right, okay.
150 quid, and I swear to God, it sounds like my Marshall back in the day, and it's split channel now.
Yeah.
What more could you want?
All right, that's interesting.
Really, really good. 150 quid, and it sounds just like a JCM 800. So I mean, guitar wise, I've seen you playing a few different things over the years, some wild and wacky stuff, and you've got a couple of old dependables. What's your guitar history, Aggie?
I suppose proper guitars. I forget being on the bass. Like when I went onto guitar, I had bought a Telecaster, a black Telecaster, and yeah, it was all right, but it didn't suit because we were doing all like the kind of Lizzie stuff. I bought a Strat, traded that in and got a Strat. Then I think it was probably a 1974 Strat.
Which is probably worth a lot of money.
Probably worth a fortune now. Got nicked out the back of my car after the gig. One night, never to be seen again. But that was great. Fell in love with that. That was, and I think then I just thought, I really liked Strats. I predominantly stuck with Strats, really. I did have a spell where I had a Gibson Les Paul Deluxe as well. Again, probably worth a fortune now.
Yeah, I remember you having that actually.
And I sold that for something else.
I think the last gig I seen you'd put a one of the mini size. Is it a Ken Armstrong?
Yes.
In the back back pickup.
Strat, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that. I did that when my first Strat got nicked, and then I couldn't afford another one. The Tokais, it's not long come out.
Again, worth a few quid now if you got one of them original Tokais.
I've got two of them now. I've still got them. So got my first Tokai. probably not worth as much because I've butchered it a little bit, doing the Van Halen thing and sticking the humbucker in it and all that. Like,
Yeah.
So
by not as much, you mean it's probably a heap of junk now.
probably. I've tried to salvage it and put a proper scratch plate and put a.
Makes me laugh on Facebook Marketplace when you see people like with a Hondo 2 saying like, you know, lawsuit guitar 500 quid, and you think it was only worth about tenner when it was brand new, and it was rubbish.
So yeah, they're all.
So
right.
you've got
put all Seymour Duncans on it, and it's a nice guitar. And then eventually I was able to afford another Strat, and I bought me Strat Plus Deluxe. Well, with me redundancy money.
It was a Silver Burst
yeah, it's
one.
like Silver Burst, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've still got that, so that's.
And that's a wicked guitar.
Yeah.
Very heavy. I remember that being heavy for a
Strat. It does weigh a ton, like
Yeah.
But and I did have a Kent Armstrong, like a Hot Rails kind of humbucker on it, but I've since put it back to the original with the lace sensors on it.
Oh,
that's nice for. I use that a lot for the 80s gigs for the nice, clean, Stratty sounds.
My guitar regret was actually I had a Strat Plus Deluxe in Crimson Burst, the first year one, so that was like when John Sir was behind it all. And this was, can you imagine how much this is worth now? A Fender Strat Plus Deluxe Crimson Burst with a really heavily figured bird's eye maple neck.
Oh, right, wow.
And I did one gig with it, so it's just not got enough gain in it for doing me Go West stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the stuff I used to do.
Yeah.
What have you. So I thought, I'll get rid. So I got rid of it. I think I can't quite remember the thing, but I think it was for an Ibanez 760,
right?
Which was an absolute heap of junk. I put EMGs in it and made it worse. Even though the EMGs are great, I made it worse. But you know, and because I remember I had a ADA MP1 preamp,
right?
And for all the gain, and I was putting it through like a practice combo in the effects loop. But then I ended up with the Kramer Pacer, which sounded fantastic. But I remember you doing all your stuff like with a sort of like crunchy sound, and you used to play the volume quite a lot, didn't you? To clean it up and down.
I did, yeah. Because I seriously didn't use any pedals. I just used my Marshall. I had the what do you call it? The Hot Rails, the Kent Armstrong Hot Rails, which did give the Strat a bit more crunch, and just rode the volume on it a bit.
So fast forward a few years now, unless there's anything particular you want to cover. I remember going to see you do a gig here in the world somewhere, and you'd definitely gone upscale, and you were doing. It was a split night show, so you were doing the 80s Gold and the Kookachoo.
Right.
And you'd gone for a H&K PA system, which sounded phenomenal.
I loved the H&K PA system.
Yeah, and you were on the Pod Pro rack.
Right.
And again, you had a fantastic sound. I remember thinking...
I kind of... the band made a decision to downscale a lot of the gear that we were carrying. Reluctantly, in a way, went along with it. Sold me Marshall stack and that. And what was the first processor I bought? I think it was a Boss. Was it a GX700 or
GX700?
something?
Yeah, that was the cut down version of the GX. The GX7. I'm trying to remember I had the gold one, the original Roland make, and then the GX700 was a cut down version of that. It was about a third cheaper.
Yeah.
GP16. GP16 was the black one, wasn't it? And
this was like an orangey gold front, and it was all right, but I couldn't get to grips with it. Really.
They sounded great at bedroom levels. You get on stage, and they just didn't have it. They were feeding you uncontrollable feedback, and
I think I had the Marshall, the preamp or power amp thing with it, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Those what were they called? Valve state
valve. Yeah, it's a valve state like a stereo.
Yeah, yeah. I
thing.
had the 20 and the 40 watt version of that.
Yeah, something like that. And I just didn't like it. And then somebody said to me about the Line 6 stuff, and I bought the I think I sold the rest of my Marshall cabs and that, and bought the pod, but in the rack.
Yeah, it was a Pod
thing.
Pro.
Yeah, is that the red?
Yeah,
I think I've still got it.
Have
there,
you?
like, yeah. And
they're worth nothing now, but actually
no.
they're still very good. You know,
was,
I mean, they're not like the new ones or anything. They've got with the Helix, but they're still a good sounding unit.
I always struggled because I just wanted to recreate the sound of me Marshall. With it, and it was, it was all right, but it was never great. And then I swapped that for the floor version, because with that I was having to use that, and then having a separate. I thought, why have it a separate floor pedals and have that as well? So I just got the.
I've done that move so many times and regretted it for some reason. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right.
The floor pod, whatever it was called, was all right, but the sound was never. It still wasn't right. But I did loads of gigs with it, and convenience-wise, it was great for the band. Touring up and down, in and setting up, in and out places, and that. So that was good. And it was only, say recently, but maybe whenever the Helix came out, somebody said, "Do you want to try a Helix?" So it was when we were doing the shows in Blackpool. We had a spell of doing like 3 nights a week at Blackpool, so getting a bit of money coming in.
And that was in a really posh place. And
it was great. Good gigs there. It was nice, all in-house PA and in-house
great venue. I remember thinking, Aggie's made it. He's up where Keith wants to be now. For sure.
Yeah. It was good. That was good for a couple of years. So I bought the Helix, and the difference between the Helix and the old pods, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So I've stuck with the Helix since.
So straight away you've pissed me off, because I've got Helix envy. I'd love to try one. So, sorry, Mark Day, by the way, if you're listening, but I do actually quite fancy a Helix. It's probably more in my price range than your XFX stuff. The guy I interviewed last time, Mark, he's in charge of all the sounds for the XFX.
Right, okay.
Yeah, for all the big names. I'll let you wait till you see the podcast. But so you've got a Helix these days.
Yeah, I've been using the Helix for a few years now. As I say, I haven't updated it or anything.
It's one of the full size ones, not an LT or anything.
No,
like
it's the full size one.
Yeah.
And it's just
some of my favourite players use them. That's why there's a Thai guy called Vin IT who I really, really love on YouTube that uses it for all his stuff. John Coe from Johnny's Too Loud on YouTube uses the Helix and stuff. So I'm hearing a lot of the great sounds that I hear are done with the Helix. So
it's great for live. It did. I mean, I've probably like a right Luddite, and all I did was dialed in the Marshall Plexi sound, and then stuck a tube screamer on it, and that's it. And then as we've done the 80s stuff, I've added a few other bit of chorus and things, but
all off the unit, or are you using pedals?
No, all in the unit. And I should update it to the latest software version, but I haven't. I want to try and set it up more into like a stomp box mode.
Okay.
But I've just set up about 6 sounds on it, and that's all I've used. That's all I've used for the last 5 years.
But good's good, right?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
I tried it once. I set them all up in the room, like in the back there.
So what are you using for on-stage monitors with it, or are you just going into your PA system, or?
It goes direct into the PA system, and then I just have a wedge monitor, and I just
is it
comes back.
Is it a powered monitor for yourself? Yeah, yeah. So you've not got like a. In my crazy days, I used to have my XFX 2 with like two 10-inch QSC powered monitors,
Right, yeah.
like 2,000 watts, backline pointing at me.
Yeah. No, we just use whatever. A lot of the gigs, it's an in-house PA, but I just feed it direct into the PA and then get a mix
Give me a
back
mix,
through the wedges with a little bit of the rest of the band, but with the guitar blasting back at me.
Yeah.
We did have a spell where
You always did like to hear yourself.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Well, you'd have to do really, because you usually have Keith doing a tightrope walk on a rail in front of you.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know whether he still does all that stuff.
He doesn't do it anymore, but yeah, he used to. Yeah, yeah. I can remember him hanging from the bloody rafters in one of the squaddy doos and all sorts of things like yeah. But yeah, we did have a bit of a dalliance with in-ear monitors for a bit, but and I used them occasionally, but never felt comfortable.
I think the key to that is to have good quality in-ear monitors.
Yeah,
the ones that are off the shelf. My understanding is you're really, really lucky if it's perfect for you. Whereas, like the guys that have invested a lot of money and gone for the ones, I was talking again to the guy from Canada, and he's got his Axe effects and he's got his in-ear monitors. And he said, I'd never go back to an amp.
Yeah.
He said, I get the best sound I've ever heard every night. And it's the same every night, consistent, you know.
I think it goes back to, I'm still a bit stuck in the 70s from that old quote and a bit of the punk rock. I liked the energy and the noise on stage. When we first started playing at the Sands in Blackpool, they used to put a Perspex screen around the drums.
Yeah,
I'd say,
I was there when you did it, yeah.
Get fucking rid of that thing. I want to hear the drums. Get rid of this Perspex.
Yeah. There is something about... It's like, I've always been a really mediocre singer at best, and... I always feel like I sing better when I've got a live band as opposed to like a backing track or something.
Yeah.
Because it's the feeling that you get. It's a bit like playing the guitar. For me, it's not about. I like to have a little bit of technique, which I like to think that I did develop. But truly, my technique stopped around the Van Halen era. As soon as I heard Yngwie Malmsteen and all those guys, that was just it. I realised it was way beyond my potential, and then beyond a bit of tapping, I didn't progress. So, have you kept up with all that stuff? No,
not at all. Van Halen blew me away when I first heard him, and I attempt it, but it doesn't come natural to me.
You used to do like an eruption style thing.
We do,
didn't you, as part of the show.
In the 80s, we still do jump now and again, and I bluff my way through the solo, I think.
I remember you bluffing your way through the solo, but you bluffed it really well.
Yeah, and I think if you hit the main notes, like the people will recognise, and then.
So, what's your philosophy on solos? Because I've said on some of the other casts, mine was always out of conceit. Really, I used to think to myself, I can do anything anybody else can do. So, I'm as good as them, and nobody could ever tab anything that I do. It's because nobody would ever want to, largely. But I then discovered that, particularly playing in covers bands, some songs, the solo's as much of a part of the song as, and people are listening for it. They want to hear it
to an extent. I think, something like Hotel California or something, they will know the solo, won't they?
Yeah, so, I was thinking of Hello by Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
If you were to play anything other than the solo from that, everyone would think you were crap. And the same with Hotel California. Even if there's only one of you, you still got to try and do all the bits.
I get what you're saying. There is certain songs. My general philosophy is, apart from those sort of songs where you've got to do the proper solo, is those solos that were done in the studio are just like a moment in time. You see the guys doing it live, they just do it different every time.
But isn't that their prerogative because they did it in the first place?
Yeah, it is, but I hate doing things carbon copy paddock fashion because you think, it's got to sound exactly like the record. Where's the live element to it? Where's a bit of emotion in it and a bit of feel in it? I would rather pay respect to a solo if you're doing a cover and
hit the salient notes and
do that, but also add a bit of feel to it. And
I think if it's one of those solos that you can sing or hum, where it's part of the song, you've got to do it. So, like, I remember doing things like "Is This Love" and Michael Bolton, "How Am I Supposed to Live Without You," and I couldn't envisage that song with any other guitar solo being done on it.
Yeah.
So I used to do that, but if the guitarist to me sounds like he's just blown, then I'll blow on it as well. You know.
I think a good example is we do "Sweet Child of Mine" in the 80s set.
I hate. Oh, I've been known to walk out of bars when people start doing doing the Guns N' Roses stuff. Yeah, I used to like it, but like working in Saudi Arabia, when every Filipino band out there more or less does the same set, and you've heard it either slaughtered or done well. It doesn't really matter. So many times, it's like going to Pattaya as well, and you know. Where the bands, you know, out there, they're all doing the Guns N' Roses stuff. Sounds like they've all got the same set, and they probably have because they all swap around the members as well. So
it's like the pubs around here, isn't it? Where you go and see everybody does Mr. Brightside and Sex on Fire, and you just think, oh, God. But the punters are to blame as well, aren't they? Because that's what they want to hear.
I've had abuse for not playing. Can you do Sexes on Fire? No, don't do that. What's fucking wrong with you? You're not good enough to do that one. You know. But so the punters are partly to blame for it. But you know, and Mr. Brightside as well. I refused to learn that arpeggio thing at the start, and I played in a band for a while where we had an Indian girl who was a doctor who played keyboards, and it sounds much better on piano than on guitar, in my view. And she used to do it, and
saves you learning it as well.
And saved me learning it. Win-win. Yeah. Hi, Benny, if you're listening. Yeah. But she used to do it on piano. And it sounded great. I'm of the opinion. Here's a question for you. Are valve amps dead? For all timers, if you don't mind me saying, like you and I, we grew up with them. Yeah, but
I'd love all the Marshalls. I'd love to have one for a convenience point of view. I think it depends what your
Whose is that one?
That was yours. That
was it?
That was still your first one.
I'm a lightweight. Go on.
You see
I'm not a lightweight, but
you see a lot of guitarists, don't you, with the big bands, and they go for all the vintage stuff, all the old Marshall Plexis and.
But did they really?
Well, I don't know. Have they got a helix or something behind it?
You probably remember my all-time hero was John Miles, who sadly died 2 years ago. And I remember going to see John, and he had a few Marshalls at the back, and he was on a tour. And at the time, the band I was in was, by virtue of me, was obsessed with John Miles, and we used to do he was a tribute band before there was a tribute band, and because I've got like that higher sort of pitch voice, I could do all John stuff. You've probably seen me do music. I don't know how many times. But this one was like we were doing loads of their stuff, and I went to see John, and sadly, there was more at our cover versions of John Miles' stuff at a pub in Stockport than this gig at I think it was called the Carousel in Manchester at the time. Wasn't many there, but there was still like big cabs on stage, and I looked round, and John had a little Mesa Boogie with a mic on it just at the side, and that was what he was playing through.
Right.
I think I asked Mark the same question. Mark's interview will go out after this one, but he's the lead guy at Axe Effects in terms of artist sounds. And he just looked at very, very cold and went, "Yeah, they're dead." Yeah, they're dead. And he said, "I just can't imagine all that hoiking stuff around and backpacks and all that lot. He was telling me he was at a George Lynch show like he does, and he went up there and he had a huge Marshall array, and then the road he went up and just picked 4 of the 4x12s up because they were only actually about this wide. Yeah,
love that. I want some of them.
with a stand at the back holding them up. It was like when I went to see Van Halen years ago, and I think, that Eddie's got a hell of a drop kick on him because he's kicking them over, and the roadies are pushing them up at the back. I little did I know that he was only actually using the one cab, and the others were all not even empty cabs. They're like just facsimiles of them all. I mean, so you're a processor guy now.
I am, and I must admit,
if I said to you, I've got a Mark III Mesa Boogie combo, would you swap it for your Helix? That's the acid test.
Yeah. Do you know what? Probably not now. I think I did a pub gig with the Bilcos thing we were talking about, and I always used to drag me Marshall combo house.
Have you still got it?
I've still got that, yeah. I'd drag it out for that and crank it up and that. And then one gig we were doing, I think I didn't know whether it was because I just got so used to the Helix or what, but I thought I'd be interested to try the Helix at a Bilco's gig, which is just rough and ready and just, balls out and go for it. I wonder what the Helix is like for it. And I think for the first time, I thought I preferred using that because it was more controllable, I think. As the tuner built in, and I can do a boost for a solo, and we're just going straight into the Marshall. And I just thought, yeah, maybe I have switched.
I've just got rid of my Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200, which was an Infex processor stroke 200 watt solid state amp that did a very good job of sounding like a valve amp, largely because I'm not using it so much. I'm doing jam nights on in the main now, but I've kept me 2 Ignator 1v12 cabs as a little mini stack, and I've got the Joyo amp I told you about before, split channel on the top, which is literally a lunchbox amp and sounds great. Unfortunately, I've still got a fairly reasonable sized pedal board with about 9-10 pedals on it, and I keep thinking, why should I get a processor? And I always look at people with a Helix or a Helix LT and think, they go at good prices. And then, of course, recently you've seen these new ones that have come on the market for like 350 quid, and you can copy somebody else. I've forgotten the name of the thing, but they're all the rage at the moment, and some of the guys on YouTube say they're great. I've seen the demos on Anderton's. I have my own reasons for that. Okay. I do, yeah. Gee. And,
I won't mention where I got my Helix from.
No, don't. You'll only upset me. And I'll tell you off camera. So yeah, I just think now I would really like just to have a pedal board. But the great thing about my pedal board is I turn up at a jam night. I know what I'm going to get. I use a wireless system because I've always loved my wireless systems anyway. And I've got my Joyo powered rechargeable power supply, which is fantastic, and I've got one for sale, and brand new. And I just plug up, put the pedal board on the stage, and I play. That's it. No mains leads, no nothing. I guess that from my perspective, that's even better than having a pedal board, because it's just the ultimate impossibility. Apart from the fact there's 9 or 10 pedals on it, But I still, I think Boss do something now where it's got a built-in. I'm sure Line 6 probably bloody do one as well, where you've got a built-in wireless system and processor.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think certainly Boss do. I think.
I find I use the Line 6 wireless system.
Which one have you got?
The
Which one have you got? I've had them all.
Yeah, it's
different.
The cheapest one, I think it was.
The 30.
Yes, yeah, and it was great for a while. Then it started to become a bit unreliable. I think it just started to cut out a bit. But it'd been fantastic. I think the battery things in them come loose.
Yeah, the problem with the 30 was that there was a lot of plastic in them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's essentially the same pedal, but the 50 was all metal, and I had one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was fantastic.
Yeah,
No dropouts, no nothing. And then I moved to the top of the range, 19-inch rack thing, and it was dropouts galore.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, I've probably gone bottom of the range, and I bought these just cheap. They're in the shape of a little guitar thing. The transmitter and the receiver. I don't even know what make they are. The Chinese thing.
Yeah, I use them as well now.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. The ones that are popular, the Locato ones, I think, are quite popular.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, the one I've got is the same guy that does the blue guitar thing. Because some of those are only like 30 quid. The one I've got's about 110 quid.
Yeah, this was about 30, 40 quid.
Yeah, I got it for because it matched the Stratocaster that I had. It doesn't match any of my Shijis, but you know, it matches the Sunburst Strat Elite thing that I've got, and it's great. And what's better is I don't know whether you fancy this. They do like a pocket for it to go on your strap with a female jack, and therefore it doesn't hang off the front of your guitar anymore.
Right, okay.
You just put the jack on like a mini lead into your guitar.
It is a problem with the not so much a problem with the Strat, but with like a Telecaster where it goes in the bottom,
right,
and it sort of hangs down a bit. And in the Strat, it seems to sit okay, but
so they do this thing for like 20 quid. It's like a pocket with a little lead on it with the female jack, and to be honest, it's great. It's like having a proper wireless system again without having the bulk of the the transmitter on there. So it's good.
Yeah.
I think mine's called a U something or other. No, an XV. Mine is.
Right.
Mine's an XV. Yeah. So, what's the plans for Aggie then? Are you nearing retirement? Doesn't sound like you're too old to do.
I think we're slowing down a bit, but
do you think you'll get retired by a lack of work in the end, or do you think you'll make a decision just to cut it?
It's a funny thing since the COVID and the lockdown and that. I think we all suffered, didn't we? That the gigs and everything just stopped.
Yeah.
And I think myself and the rest of the lads all found, I don't know whether you found it or other bands have found it, just found there's other things to do.
Yeah.
Me and the missus, like we've got a caravan, we go caravanning and stuff like that. Kind of enjoy that. When you're in the gigging thing all the time, you don't think about it, do you? Just, we'll go in here, we'll go in there, go and do the gig. You set up and...
Well, like you and I used to, in our bands, we used to travel a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and
we
going to
up and down the country.
Cleatamore Working Men's Club.
Yeah.
You know, in February when there's snow on the ground, and then you're in.
Been there,
You know, you break down somewhere around Blackpool on the way back.
Yeah.
Getting home at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Those are the things I used to hate and love at the same time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Now for me, it's a bit much, but I would say to anybody that I started playing guitar because we had the furniture delivery to the house, and the guy that was delivering it had his own little company, and he spotted my Shaftesbury Les Paul in the corner. He said, "Oh, you play?" He said, "Oh, I used to play for a living." He says, "I said, how did you do that?" He said, "Join a covers band." He says, "It's the easiest way to earn a living," and that's what really this channel's meant to be about, the semi-pro guitarist. Have you got any advice for guys that want to become semi-pro guitarists, or guys like you?
Don't do it.
Guys that are semi-pros that have got aspirations towards being a pro.
It seems to be like everything now, isn't it? To find a niche is a tribute thing, end, or should we be in a tribute?
I have a friend. I won't name him because he's going to be
club
doing
thing.
Yeah.
You probably did the club thing. We dabbled in it a bit, but I imagine that you were more of a club band
than a pub
we
band.
were.
Yeah.
But I think that scene's all but gone.
I think
hasn't it,
that finished completely. I mean, it was going downhill for a long time, but I mean, the last band that you see me playing in the UK was we did a gig for about $3,000 on Millennium Night.
Right, yeah.
With me doing my Meatloaf thing, and we had the girls singing all that. We become sort of famous for that, even though I absolutely murdered it.
Yeah. That was it. I would do anything for you, especially figure of $3,000.
Yeah. Well, it was a Millennium Night gig, but we used to piss off all the pro bands because we were going out as a semi-pro band for, in some cases, more than the pro bands were. But we spent a lot of money getting that sound, and we were doing all the pro band stuff. There was no difference if you spent the money on the technology, because I think you guys were using. I'll use a word loosely because I'm sure you'll correct me in terms of what you were doing, but you were using backing tracks.
We did use
for
backing
enhancements.
tracks.
Yeah,
we did when we
on the 80s gold stuff particularly.
When we started doing the 80s gold. Yes, we'd used all backing tracks, and then we thought, let's add a few of them into the Kookachoo for some of the 70s stuff.
Right.
So we used them for that for a while. Then when we started doing the show in Blackpool, and we got Roger in, our keyboard player, for those shows, we ditched the backing tracks for that, and then
because he was really good.
Yeah,
there was nothing you couldn't cover.
Great player. So we convinced him to join Kookachoo and wear all the wigs and makeup and that.
I was there when that process was going on.
And fantastic. It just gave the band a new lease of life.
You had a very serious drummer at the time as well. As an individual, he was a bald-headed chap.
Oh, that was the Cat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cat. Yeah. He finished about Christ. I can't remember now.
He sent me a message on Facebook because I'd put up a clip of me doing Swing Out Sister.
Right.
Saying that the tempo was too slow. Doing Breakout, Breakout.
Yeah. He didn't.
He wasn't. It was just the fact that my vocals dragged it.
Well, he didn't want to do the show in Blackpool and learn a whole new set and be committed to 3 nights a week in Blackpool, which is fair enough. So he left then, and we got Jim in, who's a drummer now, and he went the same way as Roger. We convinced him to put the wigs and the makeup on, and the Kookachoo now is great because it's fully live again with the keyboards and
because I always remember thinking, Keith Ranger's got, he's doing that Take On Me by Aha, and he's hitting all those top notes. And then I thought, hang on a minute, there's no keyboard player on stage, where's that coming from? I think you spent a lot of money on getting the tracks right, though.
We did spend a lot of time, and we used to have a sound engineer at the time, and he convinced us into getting this.
Yeah, by the way, sorry, Keith. I know that you could hit him anyway.
Of course, yeah.
I know you could do it anyway. It's just that you might get a bad throat now and again, and every little bit helps. Yeah,
he'll tell you that it was his voice on the backing tracks as well. Anyway, so
not pitch shifted in any way. Yeah,
couldn't possibly comment. I don't know. So we went down, kind of invested quite big in all the backing tracks. To the point where the sound engineer convinced us to get this 8-track mini disc player with all the tracks so that he could mix all the keyboards and everything. I was like, what the hell is all that about? But that's what we did for a while.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I went out as as a guitarist that reluctantly sang. I got really lazy and I was going out on gigs as a guitar vocalist and couldn't be bothered setting the guitar up. Because he was just an awful lot more hard work, and nobody was bothered.
No,
and my ego as a guitarist had disappeared. But by then, quite a long time ago, and people would rather hear me do my sort of like, stars in their eyes Mick Hucknall impression of me Michael McDonald than, listen to me sort of like, do a really bad version of Eruption, so. But I guess that was just, the way things. These days, I enjoyed going to jam nights and stuff. And do you bother with anything like that?
No, I can't bother going out.
Is it that? I like, because I do know some guys go, I'm not playing for anybody unless they pay me.
No, not that at all. No. One thing I find I hate, and I don't know why. There's a guy who plays in the pub down here. Great band, and he's one of these guys. They just play all sorts of stuff. But whenever he sees me come in, oh Aggie, come on, get up and give us a song. I don't want to get up and do the song. I'm just come in for a pint. But I always have to get up and do a song.
I've asked my...
And then he makes me sing as well, and I'm like, I'm not the singer. Why I can't remember words to songs and things like
I never did. I always faked the words. Yeah. I was of the opinion people knew the tunes but not necessarily the words, and the only people you would offend by that would be the fans of the artist. Right, I in my pub days I must have done Johnny Be Good over 100 times without learning any of the words. You learn the first 2 lines and then the rest don't matter, and then you usually end up putting in a bit of status quo in it. Go, Joe Gunny, go. What's that? A different song? Call it a 12-bar medley.
Yeah, I like all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I like that. Bit rough and ready. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, well, rough and ready describes my playing style. But so you've never had a lesson. You're
apart from when we did the original school lessons in school, where he just taught us those 3 chords, and those 3 chords have done me well, really. I think
you have, but again, like I say, most really good players, you're an incredibly modest guy.
Very
well,
nice
if anyone gets
so.
An opportunity to go and see Aggie play with his Kookachoo, do you still do 80s gold gigs as well?
Now and again, we do 80s golds. Now and again, yeah.
You should go and see it because it's a tremendous stage show, and I'm sure even Keith might have slowed down now, but he'll still be one of the best.
He's still a great.
You'll still be one of the best frontmen you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, and we were saying about going forwards. We're trying to just gee up the enthusiasm ourselves, really. But next year, 2024, is 25th anniversary of us doing Kookachoo.
Really?
Yeah. So we're going to try and, if we can muster up the energy, do a few decent gigs. We might try and put a few gigs on of our own.
Has the price of your makeup gone over the years?
We seem to have to put a bit more on to fill the cracks a bit more. So it takes a bit longer to put on.
We've been going nearly an hour and 10 minutes now. Yeah, so I think we will call it a day there because otherwise people will just get even more bored of us than they were after 5 minutes. So I'm Mark from Guitar Weekend Warriors. This is Aggie Clinch from
Kookachoo.
Yeah. Please go out and see them. They do deserve your support. They are tremendously entertaining. I actually even booked them for a works do that I was many years ago in Wrexham. I got fired about 2 weeks later, but
because of that,
probably. Tremendously entertaining band. Real good music. Everyone that you've got lots of travelling fans as well, haven't you? That all come and see you.
Yeah,
you've got a following because you're good.
Yeah, we're going down to Cornwall as our next gig because we were invited back down to do a 40th birthday party.
Where's that at?
It's just in a marquee in a field.
Wow.
And there's about 300 or 400 people going, I think. To it. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's a gig that.
How do you get there these days? Have you got a van or these days? Or?
All the big van days have all gone now. Yeah. So a couple of vehicles, I think.
What
we're going in the.
What PA are you using now?
We've got RCF.
PA,
I think. kind of lost touch with all that side of it, really. But yeah, it's an RCF PA. But we like the gigs where the PA is in house, really.
Of course you do. You just,
So we just turn up.
you just turn
Just
up,
turn
and
up
go,
with my Helix and plug it in.
Here's my lead. Yeah. Yeah. I always used to long for a roadie. In a purely musical way,
Yes,
like, you know, yeah.
Well, when you first met us, we had roadies then when we first
You
got
did,
to Germany,
yeah.
we had a couple of roadies. And
Yeah, that was including the drummer, though.
Yes, he was a character on his own.
He was rather unique, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is he still playing, do you know?
No, he's not. No,
But he was always like the weak link, and I remember the lad you got in. The subsequent drummers that you've had in were like, you know, very, very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they could obviously play with clicks and stuff as well.
Yes, yeah.
Which became very, very important at one point.
It did, yeah. And yeah, they've all been good. And it's a great bunch of lads now. It's great.
I must, I will come out and see you whenever I can, but obviously having the little one and what have you, it makes it a bit difficult now.
Yeah.
You know, they turn at 7 years of age, they chuck him out of pubs. And we haven't got a load of babysitters, but I can't wait to come out and see it again, mate.
Great. Well, I shall let you know. We don't do so many, but we'll let you know when we do.
Okay. Cheers, Aggie. Thank you very
You're
much for
welcome.
this, mate.
Great
Cheers.
to speak to you, Mark.
Oh, no problem.